Here's the dragging brakes I'm telling you about.
Right.
You can see they just stop. These are kind of...
So that's no good, huh?
No, that's normal.
Oh, okay.
They're supposed to do that up front. The backs,
It's not personal.
the backs can have a slight amount of drag, which is fine. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to adjust the servo. Before you adjust the servo, there is a rod, the one that comes off the back of the servo, then goes to this one through this linkage. There's a rubber stop up there. You have to make sure that that rod's all the way back before you start to adjust the servo. For whatever reason, over the years, I've seen a lot of people that have, there's a lot of adjustments in all these rods. Almost every rod is adjustable. I've seen people adjust them to try to compensate for something they didn't know what they're doing. If that's off, you're not going to get the right adjustment. Because if you notice this rod, it has a big slot in it that goes to this lever that goes down to the parking brake. It has to be all the way back for this to work properly. If it's not all the way back, then you're not getting the right pull from there. The adjusters are those two big nuts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just loosen them first. And by the way, this is never a good sign. This housing for the transmission that goes to the servo has a little hole in the bottom to allow excess oil if it does get by the seal down. But as you can see, it's run down and it's down all over here. That doesn't necessarily mean the servo is contaminated, but that means that the seal is starting to go. Okay? All right. Now.
We should have brought 2 cars.
Note to self, cancel
What
new
I do is
appliances.
I turn the drive shaft
Taxi?
in the proper direction, okay, forward, like the car's going forward, and then you make sure that this isn't binding. So I tighten the inner nut. Oh, see that? See it started to move?
Yep.
Okay? When you that's if you get it too tight, then it's going to apply the servo all the time. Okay? So what I do is I turn the drive shaft as it's turning, and then tighten this until you get to that point where it grabs, right there, and then I back it off essentially a half a turn from free. So I count the flats. There's 6 flats on a nut, 3 is a half a turn, so I do 4. You can always tell if your master cylinders are working good if you get about an inch before they get hard.
Oh, yeah?
This is what applies your brakes. You can grab any wheel right now. When I do this, it'll stop.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. Go ahead, turn it.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
See? Oh, that's your brakes applying. Now, you see the nut I'm talking about? This is the inner nut.
Yeah.
You tighten that a little bit at a time while the drive shaft's turning. So tighten means
That
you're
was
turning.
Al Gore invented the internet.
Just go ahead and just pull the wrench off. There you go. You can't leave the wrench on there because it'll go away from you. Until that servo can starts to move. There, see it?
Yeah,
See this started to move. So
Yeah,
back
yeah.
it off 1 flat now,
Yeah.
and then 3 more. See that? How it relaxed? Now that's neutral. It's not touching. So now you want a half a turn, which is 3 flats out. That's the other way.
Okay.
Are you up against that big
Yeah.
nut? Here, let me. Uh-oh, now you gotta readjust it. Here, let me get this so it's not gonna interfere with everything. Let's try again. There you go.
Yeah.
Just grab. Okay, now back it off 4 flats.
Okay.
Okay, and then you just lock the nuts.
All right.
All right.
Now, can we see what you're doing? You are actually adjusting the servo now?
I'm adjusting the servo
Okay.
clearance. Yes.
So now in diagnosing any potential problems with brakes, what you just did here is only part of it, right?
Diagnosing? This is not really diagnosing. This is a normal adjustment
Normal adjustment, okay.
that I do on every normal service on these. I always adjust these 2 things, 2 critical adjustments.
Right.
That'll give you that proper brake pedal feel
Right.
and height.
Okay.
Now we'll go to the back wheels. The first thing I do, once the servo is adjusted, this rod is what goes to the other end of the servo through one other linkage. I take the pin out. There's a little cotter pin in here. Okay. And since I'm going to be adjusting it, there's a little lock nut. This rod is threaded here, and this clevis on the end. There we go. There's a little pin that holds it. There we go. That linkage that I showed you on that one, I was pushing this, and that's what made those expanders go out. So when you adjust them, you disconnect the springs so you get a proper feel. There's a spring on each side, which makes those adjusters return. Okay. Now we're ready. Since the brake height, pedal height, and the feel are tied directly to the rear shoes, what I do is I adjust them out until they're applied. There's a little adjuster on the rear wheels. There's a square nut adjuster over here, and you can turn it. It goes a quarter turn at a time. It has a little detent, and I lock the wheels up like they're fully applied. You get to that point where it doesn't want to go anymore, that's applied. Okay, so that one's done, and there's another one. And this one, if you look at this one, that other one is screwed in a lot. This one, you can see the threads, it's out so far. So that's probably why your brakes, you didn't like them, because this one's not even working probably. And plus, as the further those adjusters go in, that indicates more wear on the lining or oversized drums. Okay. So now that you've got the shoes are applied, you have to adjust this rod. And proper adjustment on this, you take out all the slack here. The pin should just fall right in there. Or push right in perfectly. See, that rod's out of adjustment because the rod's past it.
Gently sliding in, it's not good.
No, it is not. Just make sure it's something else. And make sure there's no clearance. Okay. So now you hook up your springs again, so you can back off. You don't want to leave your brake shoes adjusted all the way out. You're not going to be able to move. Okay. Now usually it's 2, maybe 3 clicks. Bang them, make sure that
You know, that's what it says on the paper, bang the tire. Wondering what that was for.
Is that to prevent frustration?
No, it's because it has like a little cam mechanism, and sometimes it doesn't return all the way. So that's why I always bang them. Take that. That one backed off easy. That's good. You want a slight amount of drag. It seems counterintuitive, but it works. Lock this nut.
So how much play is there in the foot pedal now then?
Well, whatever play is in there, it's going to be whatever this backed off and how much clearance is in the servo.
Because you tightened this to a point where we're the pedal is normal, the brakes were on, isn't?
No?
No?
Yeah, I did. But that's before I backed them off. Because then you have the actual point that the brake shoes are out here and your foot is on the brake. And you got to remember also that there is already clearance in the servo. This doesn't go directly to the brake pedal. You've got the clearance in the servo. And that's your braking height. That and clearance here. So, I think that's that. And then I will drive this before you drive it, because I always drive brake jobs. Anything I do on the brakes, just to make sure it's right. I always recommend doing a service on them once a year, whether you put 500 or 5,000 on them. And it's not only just for the wear factor. There's hydraulics in there, and they will leak sometimes. And you won't know until you pull the drum. Or you see puddles of this black, clear black fluid on the ground as it'll rip out. To be honest with you, I can do just about any car unless there's a problem in the system by myself anyways. There's, you can use like a pedal stand, and usually you can pump them, and the big worry when you're bleeding like that is drawing air back in on the return stroke. So I will pump it until I get it clear, and then I have a pedal stand and I keep it down and hold it there, go and close my bleeder, then release the pedal. You're not drawing any air.
So you do that rather than these pumps that pull it through.
Right. They're usually, for me, you're using those power bleeders and all that, it's just more messy than anything, because you've got so much brake fluid. I'll show you back here, there's more light. We're gonna, what I do, one thing, if you do work on your brakes, I found on the front wheels, not on the rear, I found where people have replaced the steel lines, and they put them in a wrong position. One thing you gotta remember is the bleeder always has to be at the top of the cylinder. Okay, I just worked on a car this week that somebody had replaced the brake line and they switched them. So you're never going to get all the air out unless the bleeder's up at the top. Now that I've opened this up, a lot of times you'll see fluid will start to move. If you look at the bubbles on this line, I don't know if you can see them, it's already bleeding itself.
Right.
But to power bleed it, you go back to your master cylinders, which are right here under the car. It's kind of convenient. And then this right here, watch that hose. You just pull the lever,
Oh, yeah, huh?
and then you bleed. It's very simple.
Yeah.
And then you just make sure there's no bubbles. We got a little bit from the beginning, but that was it.
Yeah.
And that's probably more in the, for cracking it open.
And it's about half the time you open it.
Yeah. Don't want to go too much, because then you'll start drawing in air.
Okay. So it's like the easiest bleed in the world.
Well, if there's no problems in the system. Sometimes,
In principle.
in principle, yeah. Actually, the Silver Shadow and the Spirits are easier, because you just start up the engine, since it's a power hydraulic system, put a pedal stand on the brake, and lift the car up and just bleed them all out. To warn you, if you're going to bleed any part of the system on a car that's old and the master cylinders haven't been apart, do gentle, short strokes. Don't take this all the way till it bottoms out, because if the master cylinder has any sediment in it or is borderline, it'll just start sucking air or bypassing, and then you're going to